that long day behind you. Good times lie ahead. With company worth keeping. That are back.
Nope. Intro over. Cogsley's doing it again. So, we'll move on. Welcome to the Tavern. Tonight's topic is going to be separating significant others, and we will get to that in a few moments. First, allow me to introduce myself. I'm Travis I. Sivard, author of incredible books such as Portals and Silver and Smith. Check them out, available on Amazon and in the privacy of my own home, but that costs a lot extra. So, beyond that, my vices tonight...
$20 is $20.
That's right. That's very true. And I'll sign it. Not even talk about the book. So, Coke Zero, bourbon, and a pipe with cherry tobacco. So let's go ahead and pass this on to Crystal. What do you got?
Well, my name is Crystal Wood. I am the author of such fabulous books that haven't been written yet. And I'm also a ghostwriter of 26 books that I can't tell you what they are. And I'm also the launch team captain for Travis, who is in the process of making a...
Would you like butter?
Sorry,
on that?
I'm a
Another
little
book.
drunk. Launching another book here pretty quick. So look me up and email me if you want to get in on that action. And my vices are gin, that I lost my flask, and pink lemonade, which I'm going to be sticking to for this episode. Probably not the gin.
Who do you want to pass it to?
And over to you, Ed.
Oh, hey, I'm Ed. I don't ghostwrite anything. I'm drinking though. Found a new Pinot Noir, and it's pretty good. It's called Bowen, which I understand is Norwegian for farm.
Okay.
Pretty good. Chasing it down with water. Your turn, Andrea.
Okay, hi everybody, Andrea Chat here. My vices tonight are knitting, as always, but it's over there right now. And I'm enjoying a beer of root by Bolin Bottling Company.
Sure you are.
Good root beer. Okay, so let's do some...
Getting a nice sugar high.
Let's do some toasts here. Going along with tonight's topic of separating significant others, here's to enjoying your significant other in whatever form that may take.
Wait, don't toast yet. I can't find my gin.
And remember...
Where did I put it?
To your eyes.
Well, thank you for whipping out your bits there, Ed.
It's _just_a_nut cheese.
You got something? Okay, there we go.
500.
I'm ready.
And remember, after that superstition episode, stare into each other's eyes. There we go. Hey, Ed looks like that guy from those TikTok memes. Yeah, do the eye thing for Andrea again. Okay, so for everybody who is listening to the podcast, we are recording this with a live, not so studio audience here on twitch.tv/Travis Tavern Talk. We will be reading comments and questions from that group of folks. And for everybody on the live stream, we are recording a podcast. So we might not respond to everything because, we got a show. And Cogsley, Mr. Wordwin, did throw up a quote, which I feel may also relate to tonight's topic of separating significant others. And that quote is, quote, "I don't think even a doctor should see that far in," end quote. And that was a quote from me. Apparently when I was writing something, I said that out loud, and there we go. Okay, so the topic, separating significant... It's so much better out of context, I guarantee that. So, separating significant others, bit of a tongue twister for me there. Tonight's topic is about those folks who have the person they love in their life and they cherish, but they never bring that person around their friends or do social activities in a group setting with that person. They do things with that person or with other people. And we're going to talk about this here tonight. So, who wants to start? Who's got some thoughts to open up with?
I thought it was making sure your wife didn't find out about your other 5 girlfriends.
No, knowledge is important in that
And your
aspect.
wife knows.
Okay.
And somebody did make a reference earlier before we started the show, um, and Trey, give me a second. I'll comment on that. Somebody made a reference to our earlier show that we did a few weeks ago of polyamory and asking if this relates to polyamorous relationships and separating your other significant others from each other. So, thank you, Wordwin. Trin says, I can't really relate, so I'm going to sit this topic out. It doesn't matter what experience you have in it. I guarantee you have thoughts about it. Or if you think about it
An
for a moment, you
opinion.
will. An opinion, yeah. It's
Yeah.
so. What about you, Ed? Do you like to do things with your significant other, or do you like to keep that life separate from all your other social life?
Oh no, I love to do things with my significant other. Even as I have said before, this is marriage number 3. But even with my first wife, as time went on, we didn't have a lot of things in common. But anyway, didn't mean I didn't like to do things with her, because I like to have her around, because I was married with her, married to her. She was my spouse. But she used to comment when I got together with my military buddies and we're talking. She's like, I don't understand what you're seeing. It's all in code. Who the hell has a 77-inch dick, and why are you holding it up to your mouth to talk into it? Meaning a Prick 77 military radio. But anyway, I still liked having her around. She excluded herself more than I tried to exclude her, which maybe that's why we're not together now. I don't know.
Could be.
Hmm.
And in a parallel to that, can I talk about your second wife for a moment?
Do we have to?
No, you don't have to.
He's like, it's too soon.
But when I met Ed, it was
Sure, you
just
can.
before he got together with his second wife, and they got together, and we were all friends. And talking about separating significant others, there's also that thing where the significant other separates you from your friends,
Mhm.
and then eventually walls them
Yeah.
out. Because Ed and
Yeah.
I stopped speaking for a matter of years because of a situation like that. So what about you, Andrea?
And when she was gone, we were all happy again.
That's true. That's true. Actually, let me jump over to Crystal and let Andrea go last. Crystal, how do you feel on this? Separate events? Together events?
You know, I feel like the only reason that you would not feel comfortable with your spouse and your friends in the room together is if they didn't like each other for some reason. If your friends don't like your person, or if your person doesn't like your friends. Because that's the only reason that it would be unfun, I would think. But if that's the case, then maybe somebody, either your friends are not being nice to you or your other person is not being nice to you. If somebody is offended on your behalf, you might want to think about that.
So what
I'd like
about...
to add to that real quick,
Go ahead.
because I had a friend just recently. She lived several counties away, and she came up to visit on a weekend. And I was like, what are you doing up here? And she's like, oh, he's having a party tonight, and all of his friends don't like me, so I'm not allowed to stay at the house tonight. I was like, what the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
Don't make sense to me. Tell them other friends you need new friends or something. I don't know.
That, or he's telling them that she's doing things or saying things that she's not doing or something.
Mm.
You
Mm-hmm.
never know. There's always layers.
So what
Peel
about
back.
you, Crystal, and your significant other? Do you like to do things together, or do you keep your life with them separate from any other social life?
Well, we've been in the same friend group since we were in high school. And so a lot of those same friends that we knew back then, we are still friends with now.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's cool.
yeah, they've scattered across different parts of the country, but generally we kind of run in the same types of circles. My people are a little bit more artsy and his people are a little bit more gamery,
Mm-hmm.
but generally we meet in the middle somewhere, you know? Sometimes I don't know, sometimes his friends and I get along and and mesh on some topics that he doesn't necessarily feel super connected on. His creative friends, I like to jump in there and do creative shit with them, and my friends that are a little bit more on the nerdy side and like to do gamer Dungeons and Dragons type stuff, he, you know, he vibes with them a lot better. So it keeps us all happy if we can manage to find a middle ground somewhere in there.
What about you, Andrea?
What was the question? I'm listening to everybody else. Okay, so would I hide my friends and my other half from each other? No. Because if you can't trust them in the same space, something's wrong. But no, I do believe in having separate activities, but not all the time. Like, there was a get together with me and my friends, and Travis came along, but sometimes it's just the girls, and that's okay. So if he wants to have time with like Ed or whatever, that's okay, but we all come together.
Yeah, sometimes when we were in Oceanside, my husband and his buddies would go out and do boy things, and me and all the wives would hang out and we'd play poker, and we had candy instead of money, but it was still fun. We drank and it was glorious. But it was still kind of the same friend group, you know what I mean? It's like we all knew each other, and a lot of times we hung out together too, and that was just like sometimes we just wanted a girl day.
Well, like, I've been in relationships in the past, which is why I'm not there now. They would go out with friends. I didn't know who these friends were. I wouldn't be told anything until after the fact. So that was kind of, there's a problem there.
Yeah.
And I don't do that. So
See, with me, I believe if you're with somebody, you want to include them in the important part of your life. And if your friends are important to you, and generally if you call somebody friend, hopefully they are, you want to include your other half in that relationship also. Now, not all the time, as Andrea mentioned, and anybody that doesn't know, Andrea is my significant other, and as soon as she felt comfortable, I wanted her on the show. I've known Ed a lot longer than Andrea, but I immediately introduced Ed and Andrea first chance I got. I started hanging out with Crystal relatively recently, and my first thought is like, oh, I want to put these two together because I think they're going to like hanging out with each other. I have interests she doesn't, you know, but she comes and tries them and then decides if she likes them. And then I can, well, even when I stream, kind of a solo thing, but I never hesitate to have her come in and join in for a few minutes here and there, or even like on a whole show, like tonight, whenever she wants to. And as Andrea mentioned, it's okay to do stuff by ourselves. There's
Absolutely.
times I'm sitting on the front porch with a cigar and a drink and just lounging, and she may or may not join me. And that's fine. As for social things, no, Andrea is my first social interaction and my last social interaction. So if there's something I need to go off and do by myself, if I wanted to go out, hang out with my son and do something or whatever, she's not going to have an issue with it because she knows she's included in so many things. This is just like when she went out for lunch with her girlfriends, or if I can think of many other things. But there are people out there that have a definitive line. I've had friends who they don't talk about their other half. They don't include their other half anytime they go out and do things. And I'm not wired that way. It confuses me why you would have
Yeah,
somebody...
me too.
A boring ass relationship.
Yeah. Build on that, guys. I gotta let the cat out of the executive
well, it's
washer.
kind of like, I look at it the same way as when, like, especially when there was the shutdown and lockdown, and people are like, oh God, I'm stuck home with my other half and my kids.
Yeah, I
need
didn't
to
get
out.
that.
I'm like,
Yeah,
I don't
didn't get
understand
it.
that. Well, if you don't like each other, I just don't understand.
Why
How
are
does
you
that
together?
work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did actually have a friend, speaking of military buddies, he got remarried years later after we had all sort of gone our separate ways. And we used to always get together, have little reunions and so forth and so on, and he was terrified to bring his new wife. And we all used to say, "Why? Why did you bring her? We want to meet her, man. Are you afraid we're going to tell her stories about the past that you don't want her to know about?" And finally, the truth came out. Yes, that was the reason why.
Oh no. That means that he probably should have told her some stuff before they got married.
Mm-hmm.
See, I don't know. That's
That's
part of
terrifying. Then
it.
he has to like live with that fear all the time.
See, it's been part
Social
of the
media and everything, like
that's been part of the fun of knowing somebody long enough. You know shit that their current other half doesn't know, and
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of any time where I've told a story to Ed about Andrea that was just horribly embarrassing or anything like that. Because usually Andrea's sitting right there laughing with us as we talk about whatever stupid thing this is, and vice versa. I don't know. Maybe it's the difference between totally accepting who you are and who you were and how you've grown and changed.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
But it almost feels like somebody's keeping a dirty secret, and it's called their other half.
Mm.
You can't know about them. You can't meet them. That's something you're not allowed to touch. So I'm wondering, Ed, did your friend keep her away to protect himself, to protect her, or to protect you guys? Who was he trying to
I think
save?
it was more to protect himself because he did finally. He brought her around, and it was like we start to tell a story about him from the past, and he's like holding her ears. It's like, no, we're gonna let the cat out of the bag. Come on over here, talk to us, girl. It was to protect himself. I don't know if he was embarrassed or if he had painted a different picture of himself in his past than she really knew. I don't know, but yeah,
How'd she react to his stories?
it was fine. She was fine.
Did he?
Maybe not
that's
later,
good.
who knows? But
Wordwin says the two more terrifying steps in a relationship: when the significant other meets your mother and she tells them all your embarrassing stories from childhood, or when your significant other meets your friends and they tell them all the
hmm
embarrassing stories from adulthood. I remember when I first started bringing my husband Chris around, and um, we weren't even openly dating yet. We were just friends, because I wasn't allowed to date when I was in high school. But he would come around and hang out, and we'd karaoke and you know do Bible trivia and stuff, play checkers, and my mom would bring out the home movies of me when I was, the awkward homeschool kid doing like ostrich shadow puppet type things. Like I don't even know what the heck I was doing, but oh my god. It was awful. So I do get that, like wanting to put your best self forward for your significant other, especially when you're in the early stages of dating. But when that person turns into a permanent or semi-permanent fixture in your life, then at some point you're gonna have to reconcile your uncool past, or, man whore past, or whatever the case is.
I've got a solution for this because I live my constantly embarrassing stories. And the first time Andrea and I met, we were at a small Ren fair, and I was dressed as a gypsy with a Russian accent, and this is how I talked to her all day long. And there
The
was
whole weekend.
the whole weekend, and there was one point in time where we were alone together, as alone as you can be in a Ren fair environment, and I immediately dug into my repertoire of awkwardness and started making bad puns about different cars going by, different buildings around us, because I have gotten to the point in my life where I'm like, you know what? They're just going to know me from the get-go, and if it's not good, walk away quick, walk away slowly, back away, keep an eye on me, make sure I don't follow, whatever. Matter of fact, it was Ed that I went to one time, and I went, I'm nervous about putting my swords and stuff up on the walls, because if I bring a woman home and she finds it upsetting or creepy or scary, axe murderer type thing, then yeah, I don't want to scare him away. And Ed says, if you bring a woman home and she reacts badly to it, you brought the wrong woman home.
Wrong. Yeah.
And I went,
But
I
then he
said-
came.
go ahead, Andrea.
Go ahead. Then he came to my place and saw all my knives and daggers on the wall. So
And her
love it
life-size
so much.
cutout of Hugh Jackman
night,
as Wolverine.
John.
Good night, John. Yeah. And she had the 6-foot-tall, Hugh Jackman with a bare chest and everything too. So, or no, but he had the tank top on. I don't remember.
he had the tank top on.
But yeah,
Brilliant.
we had the same.
Travis imagines him with no shirt.
Oh, by the way, apparently there is a picture out there of Daniel Radcliffe dressed as Wolverine, and it's pretty impressive. Now,
Seen Daniel Radcliffe naked riding a horse.
in person?
Okay.
No, it was for a play. He was in a play and somebody took pictures. But yeah, he rides a horse out onto the stage. Beautiful white horse, and he is buck-ass naked.
Nice. Good
This
for-
is neither here nor there. I just thought I'd comment.
It's I will say he does have that scrappy facial hair that would go well with Wolverine. Because
He's quite cute.
It's and yes, Trin, both Andrea and I had weapons on our walls and comic book stuff and Star Wars stuff.
Still
Shit.
do.
Yeah. And
I actually have like a Wolverine claw knife hand thing.
is it on the wall behind you?
That's kind of awesome.
Yeah, move
No,
it-
it's over there.
Oh, okay. Let's see, move your head. Where it says Radcliffe is ripped. Is he
I have
ripped?
daggers on this wall.
Ah, gotcha. Yeah, it's So I guess if you're afraid to show somebody who you are, and part of who you are is your friends, but then again,
Mhm.
I really feel like if you're not bringing your significant other out on social outings, I feel like the true reason you would do something like that is so you can get away with things. So you could do things without them
Mhm.
watching. And that is my first instinct about anybody who doesn't bring their other half around. I'm like,
Right.
what are you planning to do tonight that they couldn't be here for?
Right.
Or maybe it's because they are embarrassed that that person is mean to them and like talks down to them in public, and they don't want to. They don't feel comfortable
Friends to do
being
that.
themselves around their friends.
That's possible too. That they could.
Yeah.
Possible. Yeah. I can see that.
It's like people who are in abusive relationships, they get embarrassed
Mhm.
when that person mistreats them in public, and then sometimes there's drama because inevitably one of your friends is going to be like, "Dang," and say something.
Mhm.
Maybe not, but you know.
When I was younger,
Yeah.
because I do like to dote on my other half, I've had a lot of friends going like, "Wow, pussy whip Travis, huh?" And I'm like, why? Because I like doing nice things for the person I'm with. Yeah, definitely pussy whipped. Let's go with that one. And of course, once you put it that way, your friend is like, okay, let's move on to a different topic. Yeah. That's just dumbass.
Don't
to
be
say shit,
hating.
you know? Or you point out like, hey, I just brought you a drink too. Whip out your pussy, dude. You know, it's,
Don't hate the player, hate the game.
that's right. It's a. It also tells me
Me and
that
Chris always say we've been making people throw up since like or what was it, 2002, something like that.
I said
Making
something
people
at
throw up in their mouth since 2002.
I said something at work today that was wonderfully awkward, and I looked. My one coworker was in the room, nobody else, and I looked directly at him. I says, "Travis, making it awkward since 1971."
There you go.
It's just you own it, and if you're with somebody who you can't be who you are around, or you don't want to bring them around because you're trying to screw off, or because they're abusive, or you're abusive to them and you don't want people to see that. Yeah, maybe it's not a good relationship.
Yeah, if the dynamic between you offends other people, then maybe it's not healthy.
Yeah. It's because that's my gut instinct anytime somebody doesn't want to go out in a group setting with their other half. It's something's wrong with that relationship.
Yeah. it's something's not right there. Something's odd. Something, you know. When I heard this statement made recently, I started to think, okay, this is a changing time and yada yada. I tried to justify it. It is a changing time. Relationships are different, and I am a well, I can't really say I'm a traditional, but anyway. But I did
I don't
try
know
to
what
justify it.
traditions.
But it still kept coming back around to no, something's off. It just didn't feel right. Doesn't seem right. I don't know.
It doesn't seem like an
Right.
affectionate way to be.
Now, what about not bringing your kids around your friends? Would that be the same thing because you want to be somebody that your kids don't know? So you don't want them around?
I do like having grown-up time. My child knows that
Mm-hmm.
I, like to sometimes go out and do grown-up things
Right.
that she can't be
Mhm.
present for.
But
Gosh.
you said sometimes.
And she right. Um, I mean, I don't know. We generally my kid is the oldest out of the group when it comes to my friends' kids, and she ends up babysitting everybody else's kids, so she
Mm,
doesn't want to come anyway. But
that's fair. That's fair. It's and good night, Trin. Have a good
but I
night.
mean, if the good night.
There you go. Ed was
But
typing
yeah,
it
if
up.
my so yeah, if there's going to be someone that she enjoys hanging out with, I don't know. Actually, sometimes she does think that our friends are super cool and she wants to come and be included, but it's like, dude, I don't want to have to censor myself for my 15-year-old today. Like, go to bed, go play video games or something.
See,
I'm just gonna
Well,
sit in here.
Go ahead, Andrew.
I think when it comes to having your kids with your friends, it depends on the situation.
Right. The
Because,
setting.
yeah, because not kids aren't always appropriate.
Right. Definitely.
That's all.
But you're not
And
bringing
two,
the.
I think
Go ahead.
it's different to want a break from your kids versus wanting a break from your significant other.
No.
Your significant other isn't someone that you're, taking care of and constantly
Right.
trying
Absolutely.
to baby and accommodate all the time. They're a partner. They're not someone that's, I don't know, you're
No.
in charge of.
Absolutely. But I've seen a lot of
So
people when they're starting to date
don't have to be
somebody.
super responsible.
I agree with all that. But I've seen people when they're starting to date somebody new, they try to turn their child into something the child isn't initially. And I know you want your child to behave initially, but see, Ed and I, again, friends for a long time. And whenever Ed would have a party, I'm like, kid friendly or not? And if he's like, not kid friendly, well, then I had just usually decided, well, I'm just not going then. And that's fine. And other times it was kid friendly and I'd bring my son. But I never
Hmm.
tried to be somebody who I'm not, even around my son. I wanted him to understand adults behave a certain way, that children should not behave like. I wanted him to learn the difference between what's it like with family, what's it like in a restaurant, what's it like with friends. And there are different behaviors for each setting.
Right.
And I only brought that up because, especially if you've ever been a single parent, that kid is a huge part of your life. And if
Hmm.
they're not, well, that's a whole nother topic.
Well, I,
Yeah.
I have known some parents, when they enter the dating scene, they don't necessarily want to introduce their children to the person they're dating right away because they want to make sure that person's going to be around. And that
Mhm.
I do understand.
Because then they don't want people coming in and out of their kid's life all the
Right.
time and their kid just remembering a revolving door of
Mhm.
people coming and going.
See, I've always dated differently. I never thought of it as dating. I go hang out with somebody as a friend without the romantic
Mm.
side of things. Because to me, not everybody, but to me, romance develops after a friendship. And so friends, they do come and go. And I'm okay with my kids seeing that. You know, it's a sad fact of life. And even now, my kid who's 18, he's like, oh, I don't see so and so anymore. I'm like, yeah, well, welcome to life. People come and go.
Mm-hmm.
And it hurts sometimes, and other times you're relieved. Tomato, tomato. Okay. So let's see, where can we go? Because we're only halfway through the hour. And we've kind of depleted our opinion of if you can't hang out with your spouse and others at the same time, something's wrong. So we either need tangents or more
And I
opinion.
think
Go ahead.
for me, it's because with Teresa and I, we always say if there's something one of us doesn't know about the other, it's just because we haven't thought to talk about it yet. Because we talk about every damn thing. So,
Yeah, that's fair. It's
Once in a great while, something will get said that I didn't know about my husband. And that makes me super excited because I thought that we had heard all the stories. Like,
right.
you start to stagnate a little bit after you've heard all the stories. So then you have to either start going and making new memories, or you have to dig up somebody that knew your spouse before you did and see if there's anything that they forgot to mention.
See, even then, when I get together with somebody who I've known for a while and they have a new partner, I don't think to immediately jump to the stories about this person. Let me tell you these embarrassing moments. Because I'm busy in that moment, getting to know this new person as an individual and as a couple. Not just there to go, let's make this all about your other half. Let's make sure you feel included in the group as a separate human being, instead of just being that person that came with them.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's it.
And going back, adding on that, and going back to the polyamory thing, there was someone that was in my life for a while, and she couldn't understand that when we had a conversation, and then we talk later, she's like, well, did you tell Teresa that we talked about so-and-so? And it's like, well, no. You're hiding something from her. I don't like it if you're going to hide anything from her. It's like, no, I'm not hiding anything from her. We just haven't talked about it yet.
See, that's another thing I tell my... I'll pass it right over. It's something else I tell people when they confide in me and they're like, don't tell anyone. I'm like, Andrea? Because I tell Andrea almost everything. Here's how my day went. So there's a chance at some point in time it's going to hit Andrea. But if they tell me specifically, not even Andrea, okay, well, we could do that then. What are you going to say, Crystal?
I was going to say that it takes a little extra effort to not tell my spouse stuff.
Yeah.
And back when we had our first girlfriend, she would tell me all kinds of stuff about like childhood trauma and just, deep stuff that you don't tell people, just that you meet on the street. And then she would talk to him expecting him to know. And I was like, that is not mine to be telling him. If you get comfortable and you want to talk to him, then that's a whole separate thing. And he and I have talked about that before, and certain situations are okay to keep other people's secrets. If it doesn't have to do with he and I'm listening to someone vent about their trauma, I'm not going to be, gossiping and telling him about that. So
no, that's absolutely
even though he's very close to me, it's just, I don't know, that's just a boundary that we have, and we're both okay with that.
It also depends. For example, somebody at work tells me something in confidence, I have no hesitation telling Andrea later, because she has nothing to do with them. This is now part of my day. It's not like we hang out separately where, I'm just like, hey, guess what? So-and-so at work, So, yeah, it is a matter of circumstances, a matter of couth and comfort. And, yeah, if the three of you are close enough where that person could separately tell your other half, yeah, it's worth not telling because that was a confiding moment, a private moment. And I would never expect Andrea to come to me if she had a private conversation with either of you or any of our other friends and fill me in on the nitty-gritty details. But if she did, it also wouldn't make a difference. So I guess trust then, right? If you don't...
I don't know. If I was to have a conversation with Andrea, I kind of expect that you're going to hear about it sooner or later. I don't know. you're close.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you, Ed, and I guess it depends on your motives behind telling her. If you're confiding in something that you needed to unburden or you felt like she could relate to, well, maybe it doesn't matter. But not everybody's like you. If you're going to hit on Andrea with me there or not there, we know where that stands. But other people, if they're approaching her going, I've got a mole on my penis, but it's like ribbed for her pleasure, that is probably something they don't want repeated to me for some reason.
I'm not a doctor.
But I play one in the bedroom.
Haha.
Flashback to a Friends episode where Ross picks a speculum going, look, it's a dinosaur. And then it's explained to him what it is. Which, by the way, how does a 27-year-old man not know what a speculum is? I feel that's just ignorant.
Ross.
Yeah. Friends, 90s.
The character.
It's fun to watch some of these episodes and going, oh, that would have been written very differently today.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think back then it was common for men to go to their significant others' doctor's appointments and stuff with them. That's another thing that some people are really uncomfortable with is taking their spouse to the doctor. I have severe anxiety specifically with doctors, and I have to bring my husband with me so that he can talk to the doctor for me because I can't talk, and they'll just think there's nothing wrong with me because I'm like, I'm fine. No, everything's fine. Nothing to see here. And my husband will have to be the one to actually get me through the doctor's appointment. So it's not because he's spying on me or that he has to hear everything that my doctor says. I know it probably looks weird that I take him to all my appointments, but I just can't do it.
I know his pain.
Now, Ed, is it because you're that way or Teresa's that way?
She won't go. She just will not go. Now, she will talk and she will tell what she's feeling and everything, but she won't go. If I just want to sit in the lobby, you better get your black ass up here and come back here with me. She just won't go.
Yeah, I need my hand held in the doctor's office.
Andrew and I.
Well,
Go ahead.
go ahead. It's a different thought. Go ahead.
So Andrea and I tend to go with each other largely because if Andrea is going through something, she gets flustered. And if I'm there and can hear everything the doctor says, she doesn't have to try to retain it and tell it to me. I heard it. And also, when I bring her, and I feel like a lot of times when she brings me, it's kind of like a backup set of questions. So, the other person might think of something to ask that the person going through this, who's just full of the situation, might not think to ask. What were you going to say, Andrea?
Okay, so playing on the doctors and having your other half there. They used to not even let the men in the delivery room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's not right. They were part of that. They need to be there. They don't experience the pain, but they need to experience something.
The stitches
Just
afterwards.
saying.
I feel like a lot of men were not super emotionally supportive back then anyway, so it probably wasn't that big of a deal because, I don't know. I can't imagine my grandma wanting my grandpa in there just because he wasn't necessarily that much of a security blanket for her.
It's the
But,
relationship culture has definitely changed over the past 50 years or so.
Yeah.
It really has.
Well, a lot of times they had separate beds too.
That
When I
was
used to
only in
work
I
home
Love Lucy.
healthcare.
That was only in I Love Lucy. Don't know how they ever had Little Ricky.
Pushed beds together. So, like when I used to work home healthcare and took care of this couple, they had separate beds. That's what they had their whole marriage, and it's just like, and even some they would have separate rooms, like watching Downton Abbey. They had separate rooms.
Actually, my best friend growing up, her grandparents had separate rooms for like the entire time I knew her. And that was since go ahead.
Sorry. Wordwin had a few comments regarding Friends. People were more innocent before the internet. Regarding the going to places together, Wordwin says, I write down a list and give it to them. I do the same thing for my car and the mechanic. And I guess meaning, write down a list ahead of time
The
before,
doctor.
before visiting the doctor, so you don't forget these things. That is a great idea. And then the one that made me laugh, Wordwin says, there's a South American tribe where the wife throws the placenta at the husband after birth.
Sure, that's cathartic for her in some cases.
But is it kind of like where you swing it and it spins and then you fling it?
Or is it an
Do
underhand
you have like a
softball
special
toss?
placenta catapult?
Placenta pult.
Just run up to it and kick it like a soccer ball.
Do you inflate it first?
You want fries with that?
Oh God.
Probably not the kicking, considering the lower body after giving birth.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't know. There's been women that are in the fields farming, have a baby, and go back to farming.
That's
What the
true.
hell?
Badass bitches, man.
That is a much better comment than
You know
would
what,
rose to
though?
my head. Go on.
I was just thinking, like, if some people can have loving relationships, like my friends' grandparents, they loved each other so stinking much, but they had not been interested in sex since like the 70s or 80s,
Mm-hmm.
and they liked having their own space. And I wonder if maybe that's kind of the mentality of people who don't like to have their friends and their significant other hanging out together.
I
It's
want to
like,
talk about
this is
that
my
a little
home
more.
life and this is my...
Something a lot of people don't realize is as a relationship goes on, a lot of people either A, stop having sex, B, sleep in separate beds, or C, sleep in separate rooms. Now, Marlene says many do. I don't think it's the worst thing. Some people keep separate flats. There's that. But yeah, I think people need to realize, because we see movies where, oh, we've been married 50 years and we're still going to tongue kiss at a tender moment. And I don't think that's quite, look at Ed, how most people are. I think you still have a value to that relationship, but it's not the hot and heavy sexual relationship it was however many years ago. And a lot of people think when their relationship hits that point, something's wrong, something's bad, something's broken. But I think this is more of a natural part of human relationships, where you have all this other stuff, and the sex just isn't really the cherry on top anymore. Sometimes it's the bedrock, and it's a special moment instead of the daily or weekly or whatever activity. And people need to hear that and realize that your relationship isn't broken if the sex isn't what it once was, or if the sex isn't at all. Go ahead.
It might be because of the biological thing, because you're not at the age of having children anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't have the drive, and not just the biological drive, but the psychological drive. That sex isn't the important thing for bringing the two of you together anymore. But anyhow, that's a different topic, and just every once in a while, I when talking to a friend who's been married for 12 years or whatever, and there's not kids involved, oh, we haven't had sex in years, but you're still together, so there's something more than sex there. Unless you're totally unhappy, then fucking break up and go live life. But if you're living life together, with or without sex, there's still a huge value there. Wireless says... Sorry,
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I'll read this real quick, then you promise
I was
to...
just thinking...
Go.
Yeah, I will not lose my thought.
Okay. Mouse says, my dad and stepmom have different rooms because she's such a light sleeper and he falls asleep with the TV on. Okay, that's all.
Oh. I don't know. I feel like if the sex has completely left, then isn't that just kind of like having a friend or a roommate? But I realize that that's me being narrow-minded. My daughter is on the asexual spectrum, but she is lesbian romantic, so she wants a girlfriend, but has zero interest in having sex ever. She's just like, orifices are gross. Keep yours off of mine, and we're good. We'll hold hands. We'll go to the movies. I'll take you out to the nice dinner, but she just has no interest in sex at all. And I'm like, well, isn't that just like having a friend or a roommate? Because I have friends that I take to dinner and would love to, live with or, spend time with, but I don't feel romantically
Mm.
attracted to them. And she's like, yeah, but mom, you're poly, and so you're kind of attracted to everybody. So I'm like, you're right. I'm a little bit imbalanced the other way. There are a lot of my friends that I would probably date that, because
Mhm.
I don't necessarily see the point of a romantic relationship without the sexual element. Like, that's just a friendship, right?
It
But I
is.
guess not. Obviously not,
But
you
it's a
know?
special friendship once you're sharing
Mhm.
the mundane things like bills and cooking and cleaning, as well as all those special moments in your life. Who do you go to when you are an emotional wreck or an emotional firecracker or just in that really cozy space? Who do you go to? And
Right.
it's not every friend. It's very special friends. This is again why I've said, hey, you can be in love with somebody you have no romantic interest in. Because you think of them, you're like, I can't wait to tell them this thing that happened today. Or I really want a good piece of advice. I'm going to so and so. Or hey, just talking
Mhm.
to them makes me feel better. And
Right.
this is why I'll say with the spectrum, there's times, whatever end of the spectrum or center of the spectrum on, you can lean towards the other direction. That's all.
Yeah, everything is fluid. Relationships are fluid, and each person individually can be different from one day to the next, depending on what they're going through and how they're feeling. So that makes sense.
Hey,
I knew a couple that was exactly that way. They had been together 20 years last time I saw them. He was gay. She was a lesbian. He dated guys. She dated other women, but they bought a house together and lived together, and there was no doubt they were in love with one another. They were absolutely positively in love with one another. But
yeah, couple of comments. Book Nook, first of all, hello, how are you? Good to see you. Says, my grandparents are around 80 and slept in separate beds in separate rooms for some 15 or 20 years for health reasons. Pops has an elevated bed for his bad back. And Mouse, sorry to hear this. Mouse says, I'm about to lose my special friend. He's moving across the country for work and I can't go with him. So, here's to that. And now in this day and age, you can still be close even far away. Just, I know it's not the same. And Wordowin says, quote, to love is to be happy with, end quote. It's a Hawaiian saying.
mm,
Nice. I like that.
So, we've got a few minutes left in this episode, some time for a little more chatter and maybe
we
some...
made it.
We're doing it. And we found a good tangent we ran away with. Um,
Hmm.
let's see if we can flip it back to separating significant others and just rattle that around, even if we're saying the same thing a different way again. And I'll say, I
Okay.
wouldn't want to be with somebody I couldn't bring around my friends.
Yeah.
And I get maybe Andrea doesn't like one of my friends or one of my friends doesn't like Andrea. Sure, okay, I can deal with that.
Mm,
But all my friends? No,
right.
she's important to me. And my friends are
Hmm.
also, but it's on a different level of importance.
But
Thus,
you shouldn't have to choose.
no, you
Right.
shouldn't.
Right. And why would you want to choose? I mean, I love Teresa. I want her to know everybody that's in my life. I want everybody in my life to know who she is because I don't want to choose. And I like showing her off too. So
I love that. I love it.
So, what about any other thoughts on this, guys? Want to repeat something?
I
That's
did.
that's fair. Wordowin says it's okay. A lot of my friends don't want to meet Travis. Definitely understandable.
Aw.
But Travis is a lot to handle sometimes. I've had friends who I brought Andrea over introduced to, and there was a point in time I went, I'm going to go in the backyard, smoke a pipe or a cigar or whatever. You want to finish the story,
Would
Andrea?
you like butter on that, sir?
See, I put a lot of it out of my mind because whatever. Basically, they're like, "Oh my God, how do you deal with it?" Glad he stepped out. It's just like, I don't get that. I don't know.
Yeah, these were my friends that I had known for
That
years.
is-
So when I left the room, they're like, oh, thank God he left.
Well, of course I told him.
Wow.
Yeah, I told him that because I'm like, I don't know.
Your friend Bob is an asshole.
It's
Is Bob
don't-
with
I
two
don't-
O's?
that's right.
Oh man, that was something that was like kind of a little bit. Sometimes hanging out with the other military wives, they would like to vent about their husbands. And that made me sad because I was like, those guys are my friends. Like,
Mm.
I don't know. I don't know.
I rarely
But I
feel
mean, that's a normal thing that normal people do.
it
Normal
is.
people like to vent about their significant others.
But if that's
Most
all
people do.
they do, that's unhealthy. It's now I have gone to Ed and vented about
Yeah.
Andrea. There's been moments where I'm like, I'm frustrated about this. I need to talk to somebody. And I talk to Ed. I don't talk to many other people about it, but it didn't hurt Ed's and Andrea's friendship, and it didn't hurt my and Andrea's friendship. It allowed me, but most of the time when I go to my friends and talk about Andrea, there's very little to complain about.
And it shouldn't be like a hobby. It shouldn't be like the
Right.
first thing you do when a person leaves the room. It's
Right.
obnoxious.
Well, I've seen couples like that where whenever they talk about their other half, they're bitching about them.
That's
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Andrea.
Yeah.
Well, and this is why I think it's good where you can have friends together and friends separate because sometimes you need someone to talk to about the other person.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
But as far as I know, she's never complained about my puns and dumb jokes.
I think she likes it.
It's and I've had other people who Andrea hangs out with going, she never complains about you. She doesn't say bad things about you. And I'm like, well, if she did, I hope she'd
That's
say them
what-
to me so we could work on that shit.
That's
I
what a
heard-
healthy relationship looks like, you guys.
I had people that tell me that when wife number 2 and I broke up, they was like, didn't know anything was wrong. I never heard you say one evil thing about her. Because once we broke up, it was on, okay? But while we were together.
Your feet smell. He doesn't wash his spit down the sink.
Now, Book Nook says, in regards to an earlier comment from a few minutes ago, same Travis, I'd love my significant other and best friends to be able to hang out, have drinks, dinner, etc. Much more fun that way. And Wordwin says, if they're
Yeah,
venting
absolutely.
all the time, then that's when they're thinking all the time. Bad signs. Yeah, that is a sign of you're not happy in that relationship. And heaven forbid you tell them, why don't you fucking break up and go be happy? Because you know their last two
Yep.
relationships, they're the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's because, every relationship, no matter what, they're going to get frustrated with each other.
Mhm.
At some point, it happens. But it's how you overcome that. That's the thing. And another thing, keeping everything separate. What about the people that do everything together and everything is together? They're one being. They don't separate. I think that can be a problem too.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah, that's true. You
But-
start to lose their identity goes
Right.
away.
This is why I've often said, be single long enough to be a complete person. That way, when you get into a relationship, you're two complete people that complement each other, as opposed to you complete me. Well, what was missing in you? If you have to, and by the way, codependent Crystal here, but I'm talking to you individually, and I don't see you with your other half glued to your arm to finish your sentences for you. So you are
Oh, he's
complete.
He's over there. He's
Right. He's
He
just
sits over there with his headphones on and plays his video games. He's fine.
and listens in, and then holds up cue cards. But no, yeah, when people are so codependent they can't be with the other person to do anything, that can often be a sign of unhealthy relationships too. It's now I know Ed, you and Teresa
Very true.
tend to do everything together, but I also know you guys can work separate jobs from each other. By the way, here's something cute, Crystal. When they do work separate jobs, pretty much guaranteed.
Company now.
We do now, but they'll be on the phone with each other for the drive home. So, yeah.
My husband calls me on his lunch and also for the drive home.
Yeah.
Well, but that's because we have a rule. We talk on the drive home so that once we're home, we don't talk about work anymore. It's done.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, he calls me at work when he's on lunch, just see how I'm doing, and this is what I'm having for lunch. What are you doing? And we just like chit chat for 5-10 minutes.
See,
And then he calls me at the end of work because he wants to know if I need anything on the way home. So that's usually why the drive home call happens, is because he wants to know if there's any groceries or anything that he needs to pick up before he gets home so that he doesn't have to go back out again.
See, Andrea and I used to do that, but then I lost the AC in my car. So now I have to have the windows open, and it's hard to hear. And then I found audiobooks.
Wind tunnel.
So now that's like that's when I read, is on that long drive. And that's very relaxing. It takes away work, eases me into home, or takes me away from home, eases me into work. And so I'm going to read a few comments, and we'll wrap this up. Wordwin says, for writing, my tagline for Mackenzie, and I'm going to maybe pronounce this wrong, Elchi in Wicked is, quote, 2 halves of the same idiot. And Booknook says, codependency is something I was part of in my first relationship. I think the fact that we're together from age 13 to 20, we'd never known anything but each other and didn't know psychology, I've learned to forgive myself a little. And that's awesome. It's, as we've expressed here, we all love being around our other half. It's important to us. It's valuable to us. It's worthwhile. But yeah, when you can't function apart or do an individual activity, there might be something there to look at. Okay, any other closing thoughts before I attempt to play the outro music? Okay, let's do a closing toast then. Here's to the most valuable person in my life. Here's to you, Andrea. I'm boring her. She's yawning.
Hey, Andrea.
Now let's see what
May you bore each other for many more years to come.
Boop, boop, boop. Quote from Cogsley. Yeah, you do. Quote from Andrea D'Amico. Right there. Thank you, Cogsley.
Appropriate.
Okay, attempted outro. Let's see how this goes. Maybe.
Where'd she go?
Discussion shenanigans tonight. You are the one thing that makes the show what it is. Don't forget to join us at the Tavern next week. Until then, have fun, keep learning, and be good to one another. Now, raise your glass in good cheer. Enjoy the small moments every day, and steamy dreams every night.